This episode is brought to you by AirBnB.
Here we go.
Hey, Bashi.
Hey, Sufi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
You know, we're Boston Celtics fans.
We are?
I wouldn't say we're the most rabid Boston Celtics fans in the world.
We're not dyed-in-the-wool Celtics fans, but...
I mean, I think you could say Boston Red Sox, Pittsburgh Steelers, that's like ride or die forever.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
but they're like a top tier team for me, and so it's a very happy day.
Yeah, I think I've got a lot of, basketball loving friends, and to a man, they all hate the Celtics. And I'm sort of like, oh yeah, I get it.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, very happy.
Yeah, it's nice. It was also a very stress-free Game 5. It's nice to just have it go your way.
Some other like a good thing I feel like that happened in our world. Mom sent me one of her letters, a classic mom letter, which just has some newspaper clippings.
Yep. She compiles a sort of 2 months worth of notable clippings.
Sometimes it's just one or two. That's what this one was.
Yeah.
This is a story about the party's over for Chuck E. Cheese's robot band. And she writes on it, "Oh no."
Yep.
And then
with 2 exclamation points.
Then she sends a follow-up. After uproar, Chuck E. Cheese says it will keep more animatronic bands and sends this with, "Good news."
So in this day where we can just email people links or text them even, Mom cut out 2 newspaper clippings weeks apart and then old-fashioned U.S. mailed them to you.
Yeah.
Did she do anything that would assure you read it in the right order with the
No,
oh no
I actually
first?
read them in the wrong order, and I was so happy that I saw the oh no afterwards. It made because the good news made me laugh so hard, and then when I saw the oh no and that there was a previous story, New York Times, by the way, was running this story.
Yeah.
That the previous story was in color to really get the full experience of the band. So anyhow, good news. In all honesty, that those animatronic bands are sticking around. Munch's Make Believe Band.
Our friend Bobby Cannavale, who's on the show, today. I don't know if this happened, and again, I'm not trying to put this into your head because this would not work as a song anyway. But you know what I think every time I heard his name?
What's that?
Bobby Cannavale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a theme park in Holland. Still is.
Yeah.
Called Efteling.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? This is actually, if you're ever in Holland with your family, it is, for my money, the greatest amusement park I've ever been to.
It's fantastic.
And I think it's a great amusement park for kids of young ages because the theme is sort of fairies. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, it's gnomes, dwarves, fairies. It's fairy tales. It's
fairy tales, yes. There's also some, there's some really good roller coasters and whatnot, but it's not one of these Six Flags you're going to throw up everywhere.
Yeah,
it's
but it does, according to our dear friend Andrew Moscos, who lives over there, apparently they win like best amusement park in Europe all the time, and it drives Disneyland Paris crazy because Disneyland Paris has spent so much money, and this one just has like charm, and they don't have Imagineers, but whoever's imagining the rides over there has done a bang-up job for several years.
I always thought Efteling was just a Dutch word meaning like elf world.
Uh-huh.
But it's not. I think it's just like the name of the family farm that was maybe there first or something.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't answer you that. But Bobby Cannavale, I think what you're getting to is there's a sort of teacup sort of ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, sort of a tilt-a-whirly type thing. And it used to be called, they changed it.
Yeah, because it was Monsieur Cannibal, a cannibal.
Yes.
And it was problematic.
It was, the depiction of the cannibal was not cool.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things, sometimes you have things where you see it, it's offensive, and you go, it was a different time. the first time we went was 1997, and pretty collectively, every American who walked in was like, "Oh, this is bad."
Yeah.
And it was not. They didn't change it in like 1998. It went a few more years, but I was happy to see. I recently read, there was an article about how they finally changed it.
There was a ride that was created in the time that we were there called the Pandadrome, the Panda Dream, and the panda at some point gave the "I Have a Dream" speech. I believe the Martin Luther King Jr. sort of family was like, hey, you just can't just co-opt this. Because I mean, it was I feel like the whole thrust of the ride, and it still exists, is like the panda has a dream of a cleaner world environment. But they were sort of like, hey, you can't just like take this without, because it was verbatim. It was a verbatim lift.
Yeah. But was it in English or was it in Dutch?
I forget if that panda said "Ik heb een droom."
Right.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Yeah. But he doesn't say it anymore.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
So the good news is it was already a great theme park, and now they've combed out a lot of incidental racism.
Yeah. So check it out.
Check it out. Really fun, really fun. But anyway, I did think Bobby Cannavale every time.
Yeah. That's not the way I feel like I'm going on this one.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Of course not. Speaking of songs, we've received some criticism. Sam saw this criticism and you saw this criticism. But I believe it was only one source, correct?
Yeah, there's only one source. I can only find like one review at a time for our podcast, and I'll talk to Sam offline about how you see more. But there's always like one that's featured, and the one that was featured for like a week said, "Stop introducing the song."
The Jeff Tweedy song.
Yeah.
Not your song.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't introduce my song.
Right. We had a conversation about it too.
Yeah.
Whether or not we'd introduce it. And I should know Posh said, nah. I just want to roll it out. People can figure out what it is.
And the person that said, "Stop introducing the song," signed it Jeff Tweedy.
Yeah. So his take was that maybe Jeff tweeted and like that I was like pushing it hard.
Or maybe it was Jeff Tweedy. Maybe Jeff Tweedy's like, hey, just let this happen.
We don't know. He seems like the kind of non-confrontational dude who would want to like do it in a comment section as opposed to like texting directly.
Yeah.
So you know what? We're going to try this out for a bit, and I'm not going to introduce the song anymore. And then if you're up in arms about that, find your way to the comment section where Josh sees one a week, and hopefully you'll get upvoted into the most important comment.
Yeah.
I was also going to say I did now get your wedding invitation.
Oh, good.
And there was a lot of because you were a little upset that I had not RSVP'd.
Yeah.
But I had not received it.
Okay.
And as I told you yesterday, once I got it, I have forwarded it to my lawyers because I'm not just going to click yes. I know too well to do that.
Yeah. Well, in our tally, you are still a not responded.
How's your response going? Most people, I'm assuming people are smashing the yes button pretty hard.
Yeah, we've got some people who are coupled up and have some kids, and only one of them might be able to make it because dealing with kids. We're also in that weird little place where we obviously want everyone to be able to make it, but in a way we're rooting for some people to not be able to make it because we've got more people that we love and that we would like to invite and that we would love to have there. And there's something euphoric's the wrong word, but there's something that feels so good about having sent a wedding invite and then people saying we can't make it. And
right, because you get full credit for the invite. They know how much you love them.
Right.
And yet they've also maybe cracked the door open for some other people you love.
Yeah. So
we, on our 10th anniversary, Alexi and I did a game of who, looking back, like who would we want, if we got married today, how many new faces, and then how many people would drop off.
Yeah.
It's an interesting game to play. I would say the core is about the same because we have so many people from like early in our life.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that there's going to be some people 10 years from now that you'll be like, oh, I should have invited them, and some others where you're like, eh.
Yeah. I feel pretty good about who's coming to this wedding. I feel like we're gonna keep them around.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're not a couple of like, starstruck kids here.
Yeah. No.
You guys have lived.
We've lived.
You know what a real friend is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen next, but right after it, we'll have our show.
Enjoy this interview with Bobby Cannavale.
Family trips with the Myers brothers. Family trips with the Myers brothers. Here we go.
Look, there he is.
Josh, I haven't met you. I've never met you.
No, I don't believe so.
Look how different you guys look. You sound exactly alike, and you look so different.
You must immediately feel kinship with Josh based on the fact that your glasses look like they're from the same place.
Right. The cool place in town.
Now, Bobby, did the first thing you do was take out a fly swatter?
Okay, I've got a lot to tell you. It's like, this is all dealing with anxiety. I hate that you can see a little of my bed.
Okay.
And I've got like, I'm terrible on the computer, you guys. I'm bad. I'm so bad. Let me turn this up so I can hear you. And it's that time of the year. There's just bugs everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to be such a like bitch about like bugs in the house. Like, it's fine. That's like life. It's spring, right? And
yeah.
I have the AC, but I want fresh air to come through, and I just have to deal with the bugs. But I'm obsessed with getting them with the fly swatter.
Are you? My wife is pinning it on the boys a lot for just sort of leaving things open. Do you feel like your boys are maybe the gateway to the bugs?
Leaving the door open?
Yeah,
I know, but that's my point. Is like, it's impossible to keep them out unless you want to live like hermetically sealed.
Yeah,
and I no longer live in an apartment. I lived in an apartment for 45 years of my life or whatever, 47 years. And I have like a little house in Brooklyn, and I like having the doors open. So it's me, but I'm trying to accept it as normal, right? If you lived on a farm, you'd have bugs coming through the house, right? Flying through.
I like that you being cool with bugs is weirdly a status symbol now. Like, hey, I live in a house. We're cool with bugs.
I mean, I don't know how cool with bugs he is. He's waving a fly swatter around.
Well, I'd rather have, I guess what I mean is the fresh air coming through.
Sure.
And I can't have everything screened because like there's like a metal door in the front with like, metal work, and they could come through there. I can't drive myself crazy. So I walk around with a fly swatter. I have one.
Do you have you seen these fly swatters that are like tennis rackets that are electrified?
Yeah, I don't like that. Okay. I like the kids because it's like a game with the boys. Boys they don't need a lot. They're not that smart, right? So like just put something in their hand and just hit things. So I indulge that part of them.
I spent I want to say maybe 90 minutes on Sunday watching my two boys just step on ants. And I know, Josh, probably this is very hard for you to hear. Josh,
why? Because I'm a vegan?
Yeah, you're a vegan, so
you think I'm also like a
I feel like you would be mad about
Buddhist?
people stepping on. Yeah,
I try I should make a distinction. The ones that crawl, I don't kill. We don't kill those. My littlest guy, who's 6, Rafa, he's obsessed with bugs, and he's one of those people that he'll be walking and he'll stop and go back. I'll go, what? And he'll go, praying mantis. And then it'll be a praying mantis, like an odd bug that he just was it preternaturally like he knows what they are without having even, I don't remember him in the book looking at,
Gotcha.
And he runs into all these rare bugs all the time. So we're very careful about keeping them and then bringing them outside to the yard or whatever, except for the flying ones.
Seth's kids take a different approach.
Yeah, they're just like, it's us or the bugs.
Step.
That's what I taught them.
They step, yeah.
When Rafa's teachers give you the conference, are they like, he's testing in the top 98th percentile of bugs?
Yeah, well, they are. They do say that that he is prone to. He's the one that gets upset if he does see. They go up on the roof, right? And there was a situation where the kids were all killing bugs, and that was like a conversation he wanted to have with them, with the teacher. And could they come up with some kind of agreement if they didn't have to do that? Could we not do that? And that was kind of a little, you know.
I hope that wasn't considered a field trip. We're going to bring you all up to the roof and just go on a bug killing spree.
No, it's that New York thing, right? Like that's where they go to the roof.
Yeah.
The roof
I
of
got
the
a
old
roofer.
building.
I got a kid that goes to a roof.
Yeah.
So so Bobby, I feel like you and I had kids at the same age, which I like, but you had a first run at it.
Yeah, right. My son's 29, Jake.
Yeah, so you were 25 when Jake was born?
Yeah, he was born 2 days before my 25th birthday, yeah.
I can't, I mean, obviously you, not just age, but you're obviously at a very different place in your life. Career-wise, you must feel more settled. Does it feel like just the most massively different experience being a parent the second time?
Well, in so many ways, yes. I mean, to all your points, like I'm older, I'm not like hustling to, like I worked in a restaurant when Jake was born. Yeah. And I don't work in a restaurant anymore, so but I have other concerns like, my cartilage. Like I don't have that much of it anymore. And like it hurts when Rafa throws himself at my neck. So I don't have as much energy, although I do have a lot of energy. It's just my personality. Things like I have to get checked out more physically because my guys are very physical with me. And thankfully, I'm also like in a perfect partnership with somebody who's just young enough, just that much younger than me, like 9 years, who has a little bit more of we pick up the slack for each other. So that's
I forgot
important.
that we have that in common as well. I have a far more energetic partner, which is helpful.
Yeah. So,
by the way, I like that I feel like you kind of asked for it by naming your kids Raka and Rafa. Like that you did name them after like henchmen. like tough guys.
We thought Rocco was just sounded cool, and it was a good name. We liked the name Rocco. And then Rafa was hard, because we didn't know, and I had these like crazy ideas, like Valentino, and she's like, "Well, we're not calling him Valentino." I was like, "No, but everybody will call him Val," and she's like, "No, they won't. They'll call him Valentino, and he'll hate you." And so we didn't do that, and then we decided on Rafa because it kind of was around the time that we went to the Australian Open and saw Rafa play. So we saw him play a couple times. We were big fans. That's a cool name, Rafael. And then I had cold feet, like very close to the delivery, when I suddenly got worried. I remembered my friend Big Ralphie from when I was a kid. Yeah. And then I was like, I don't want anybody calling him Ralph.
Oh, I see. There was
I don't
a fear
want to
of
have a Ralphie. Yeah. He's a Rafa.
Yeah.
So I think it's sticking.
I feel like it fits in the oeuvre of a Bobby Cannavale that you would have a Big Ralphie growing up.
Well, you know what? I hadn't really thought of it that way. In fact, I hadn't thought about Big Ralphie and Amelia, his sister, until right this second.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. Family Trips is supported by Airbnb. Hey, Bashi.
Yes, Sufi.
We have an annual trip.
Yeah, we sure do. We get a couple regular trips, but which trip are you talking about?
I'm talking about the fact that you and I and 10 of our closest college friends get together every September for our fantasy football draft.
Such a good trip.
Very little of the trip is about a fantasy football draft.
Yeah, I always feel a little nerdy saying that we're going on a fantasy football draft, but we're going to hang out with our buddies.
Yeah, that's why I say it's a fantasy friendship draft. Would that make it less nerdy, or is that making it worse?
No, I think it's charming. It's sweet.
So this year for our fantasy friendship draft, we have a fantasy location booked. And it's all thanks to Airbnb. We found a place that has enough space for all of us and enough bedrooms for all of us and has a lot of outdoor activities, a fire pit. There's a fire pit, Pashi.
There's a fire pit. I want to say there's a volleyball court.
Yep.
There's a pickleball court. There's a lot.
It's driving distance to a hospital that a bunch of 50-year-old guys are going to have to go to when we blow our ACLs.
Yeah.
But in general, It is so nice that it has all the things that we could not get with our group at a hotel.
Oh, absolutely not. Because what you want is you want to be able to hang out together for as long as you can. And then if it's time to go to bed, you go to bed. But everyone else is sort of in the same place. And one thing that we're sort of focused on trips like this is no new friends.
No new friends. We don't want to meet them. We don't want to make them. We're happy with who we are. And maybe you're someone who's thinking, you know what? My home could be a great get-together for old friends who are not looking to meet new people. You've put a lot of time, effort, and work into your home, and someone out there would probably love to experience it while they're traveling, and then they would rave about how it was the highlight of their trip. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by Nissan.
Hey, Sufi, let's play a quick game. I'm going to say a word, and we both say the first word it makes us think of at the same time. Ready?
I am ready, Pashi.
All right, first word, cereal. Grape
Killers.
nuts. All right.
Oh, okay. We thought of different cereals. Okay.
Yeah, that's going to happen, but maybe let's try to lock in. Let's try to mind meld here.
Okay.
Next word, museum. The Louvre.
Gift shop as one word.
Okay. I said the Louvre. You said gift shop. I know we can be better at this. Let's try one more, all right?
Okay.
All right, last one. Rugged. The Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek, where form meets function with stylish orange contrast stitching and water-repellent seat material.
Whoa.
Wow.
I thought you were going to say me
For
rugged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Posh, with the Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek, you can flex your ruggedness from rocky trails and muddy paths to sandy dunes and snowy roads.
Yeah, flex your ruggedness, Soup.
I will. Stop the laughing. Featuring 18-inch beadlock style wheels and all-terrain tires, plus a tubular roof rack with up to 220 pounds of dynamic capacity for loading up your gear, the Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek is designed to be aggressive all the way up to the front grille.
And all the while, you can stay connected while you drive with wireless Apple CarPlay, allowing you to listen to unbelievable, life-changing, mind-blowing podcasts and also family trips.
Why also never mind. So thanks again to Nissan for sponsoring this episode of Family Trips. Now, go find your path and enjoy the ride along the way. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Can I do the fast part, Posh?
Please.
Intelligent four-wheel drive cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions. Cargo and load capacity limited by weight and distribution. Always secure cargo. Heavy loading of the vehicle with cargo, especially on the roof, will affect the handling and stability of the vehicle. Compatible device service and consumer activation and Nissan Connect services. Package required. Use only when safe and legal. Subject to third-party service availability. Apple CarPlay is a trademark of Apple Inc.
That's what it sounds like when you read to your kids.
Yeah, I just want to get to bed.
Here we go.
So you, and this is Union City, New Jersey. That's where you consider where you grew up.
Yeah, Union City, New Jersey until I was about to go into my freshman year of high school, and my mom moved us to Florida, South Florida. But I would say that my childhood was spent in Union City, New Jersey. Yeah.
And that's because your mom remarried? Was that what precipitated the move?
Mom remarried, and we had to move to Miami. But also, my mom's side, Cubans. So my grandmother and my aunt and everybody who lived in our building in Union City had made the move to Miami around 1980 when this whole other wave of immigrants came over from Cuba. Like a lot of families reconnected, and there was a big wave of Cubans from Union City to Miami. Miami's always been predominantly Cuban for many years, but they got another huge wave in around 1980, 81 when that Mariel boat lift came, including much of my family. But we waited another few years and then went down and lived north of Miami, actually.
So basically after that, like sort of infusion of Cubans, basically people in Union City were like, it's too good to pass up now. Like basically all our families are down there.
I think so. Yeah. And the weather thing was always a pull. I mean, the thing about coming up to Union City and New Jersey, it's interesting. There's many different reasons, but Union City did become, it was a German, it was always an immigrant neighborhood. It's right across the river, like it's right across the Lincoln Tunnel, above the Lincoln Tunnel. There's a lot of garment factories there. So it was like an embroidery place, factory workers. It needed factory workers. So immigrants, it was a big immigrant population, Germans, then Italians, then Cubans. And the Cubans, in many cases, my mother came over on these Peter Pan flights where they would put these kids, they had a window open where the new Cuban government, Fidel Castro and them, made an agreement, made it with the Catholic Diocese of New York in America to take anybody who wanted to send their kids. If you want out of here so bad, go ahead. But the kids got to go first. And they sent these kids on these planes and sent them over to the archdiocese here. Basically, they were wards of the church until their family came to get them, in most cases. And my mom was on that. And that was in New York City. And from New York City, the Cubans were like, they either stayed, but not a lot of them did. A lot of them went across the river because it was like New York City was a little much, so they went over there.
How much time passed from when your mom came on a Peter Pan flight, which is a hilarious thing to call something that scary, until her parents came?
It was a few years. It was
really.
Oh yeah. But her brothers came right away. Her brothers came, and her aunt. Her aunt worked so cool. Like my mother's aunt, my Aunt Angela. She always lived like near us. Like she was like one of those women, like never married, never kids, her whole life. Worked as a private secretary for Batista. And when that all went down, she got out like through Spain, through the connections that she had, and she brought my mother's brothers out. She couldn't get her sister and my maternal grandfather out right away. So she was raised by my uncles, and they were like, let's get her out of New York. We go to Union City. And yeah.
And so how old was your mom? What were the 2 years she was away from her parents? How old was she?
It really sucks, man. If you think about it, like 9, 10, 11.
Oof. Wow.
Yeah. So by 17, she was married. She was like her parents. So she has imagine that you got like 3.5 years, no parents, older brothers who were cool. They're like Goofus and Gallant, basically, right? She's got like awesome brothers. But for like 3.5 years, no mom, no dad, traditional old school. And then they get here and they're like, what do you mean you're American now? My mom's like, I'm American now. Listening to the rock and roll and all that shit, And she ends up dating the guy across the street. They get married at like 16, 17, she has me. And they're divorced 5 years later. But she didn't live with her parents very long. My mom still talks about the greatest years of her life being those years before Castro. I don't know about you guys, but like my sons are 8 and 6, the little guys. And I'm always wondering what their earliest memories are going to be. And I think like tough things you really remember earlier. I think you can remember those things. And my mom's whole childhood before she left Cuba is like crystal clear in her brain.
But and also positive, like her memory.
All of it positive. Yeah. That's the Our parents all say crazy things, right? And one of the things my brother and I make fun of her is like when she goes back to the greatest days of her life, and we're like, "Yeah, Ma, 70 years ago, you got a bunch of grandkids now. We're doing okay. It's pretty good here. Not paying the bills."
Has she gone back to Cuba in the last few years?
No. I've been a few times.
I was wondering.
Have you guys been?
No, I was gonna go recently. I had a wedding in Florida, and we just went to. It was going to be you have to jump through so many hoops. You're going to have to sign up with like some cultural sort of organization to take you around, and it.
By
just
the way,
seemed
it's worth doing that. That's how I did it the first time, and
it was going to be a very quick trip.
Yeah.
Is it just too hard for your mom to go back? Is that like she just emotionally?
Yes. Okay. Yes. And now she's married, her husband is like, he's like old. He's like so much older. I shouldn't be saying all this, but he's just like,
it's probably
so
true.
Much more old fashioned and like, no, I'm not, like they're not like, there's like an older generation that is still, legitimately feels really, really hurt by the circumstances that caused them to have to leave the greatest place on earth, according to everybody who's still around from that generation.
Right.
And, I got to say, you go and you get it. It's like, it's not like a small island. It's like a big island country. And it's got enough population to get a general idea of the kind of people that are there, that come from there, and all the positive things. They're incredible ways with conversation. Their desire, how much they love to talk and socialize and have a good time. That's one of the things, but it's so predominant and so pronounced there that you understand when my mom and her generation said, that was the greatest place to be.
Yeah.
Did you, when you went, did you go with Rose or did you just go on your own?
We haven't been yet. No, I went like in 2002, shortly after September 11th, with two friends at the time. And it was intense. It was amazing. I went to my mom's old house that she lived in, and the next door neighbors came over when they saw me in there. And it was the same people that have lived there since 50 or something.
Yeah. I feel like that's what that's what going back to Pittsburgh was like for us. Like we could go to our dad's old house and see like the crossing guard at the little, elementary school was still the same woman.
Was it? Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So check this out. In my mom's house that she lived in, the ladies that live there now have some of the furniture still from then, including a fan and a bookshelf that my grandfather made in 1949 or whatever for his sons, that had scratchings on it, and my mom's scratching on it. And when the people from next door came, the lady who was my mom's age, so that would have been, 25 years ago when my mom was 50, whatever she is, she's 72 now. Mom's pretty young, Anyway, she came over and she pointed it out to me. She said, "You see, we put that in there together," and it was their two names scratched on the side of the bookcase. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so cool.
That's great.
This whole other world where major world global panic ensued, and like a pretty historic place.
You, obviously, your mom, it made a major impression on her. You're half Cuban, but you can't go until after, 2002. Did you feel Cuban? Was that something?
Yes, 100%. Well, the first time I went, and the second time I went, I made a joke about it. And the guy made me show him his more ID that was bad. I made a joke. I forgot I was in a country not our country. But the first time I went, they thought I was coming back.
Right.
And they kept trying to put me in the people coming back from Europe or wherever they wherever they can travel. Just can't travel to America, right? So they thought I was coming back. And I had showed them the thing and they laughed and they said, "Oh, you look like you belong here," in Spanish. I speak Spanish fluently. And then the second time I went, I was like, "Oh, you're not going to put me in the line with the people coming back?" And they were like, "Come with us to this room, this dark room over here. Beat me up with a sack of quarters." But they didn't.
And then your dad was Italian heritage, yeah?
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't have any. I have no. My parents divorced when I was so young.
And then was your dad somebody you still spent time with as you were older or no?
No. My mom remarried, and she remarried a Trinidadian guy named Tony, who she met in Puerto Rico. You're allowed to laugh at that. I'm sorry. I've never said it out loud. I don't think I've ever said it out loud. I haven't talked about this to anybody. My mom married a Trinidadian guy named Tony that she met in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes.
I never. That's my brother's dad. Rest in peace. He's gone now. Gosh, that was something.
So how much younger was your brother? So you had a half brother?
My little brother's 9 years younger than me. So he's 45 now, 46. Yeah. He lives in South Jersey. And my sister's 2 years younger than me.
Full sister?
Full sister, I have a full and a half C, but he's my brother.
Yeah.
And you guys sound so much alike. It's crazy. I know you've talked about this with other guests, so I won't waste tape. But
I think it's when you see that we're actually different faces and you hear it, it's very jarring.
Yeah, it is jarring. Like my guys, everybody says they look the same. And I guess I see it, but not really. But people swear that they look the same. Like you guys know, I mean, obviously you know when who's who, but
a lot of people will see us. People think that I'm Seth very often.
If you see just one of us, it happens.
Yeah, by sight.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I will say one time I saw you on the street with, it was a few years ago, but it was like Jake was like 25 maybe, and Rocco was maybe like 3 or 4, but it did seem like, I was like, this is definitely like
these guys
the same
are related.
person 20 years apart.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like
So
right
funny.
down the line, the genes were strong.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that it's true. They say, right, that's primal, right? That's so that we don't eat them.
I don't know if it's so you don't eat them.
Right?
I thought it was so you don't leave them, but it could be so you don't
if
eat.
you go even further back,
Okay.
they ate them.
Now, I guess my question would be, Bobby, when you see my kids, is your first thought, I'd like to eat?
No, I thought
Do
that
they
was
look
it.
delicious to you?
Like if they don't look like animals, right? If they don't smell right, if they don't think they're theirs, they kill them,
Yeah.
right? That's all
Yeah.
I meant. I don't think
You,
humans.
I'm gonna have to ask Rafa about this. I feel like he's,
So what were your so you basically it feels like most of your formative years are then with your mom and Tony from Trinidad.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever take trips?
So they both worked, right? Like
Yeah.
pretty, basic 40-hour jobs and 40-hour week jobs, whatever, and we went to Wildwood, New Jersey. That was it. And we went for like 4 days to Wildwood. We stayed at one of those like beachfront motels, and that was it. That, aside from that, the only other trip we ever took was Montreal. And I remember like it was always my mother going, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. Go somewhere. And I remember taking this one trip to Montreal. Like it was Wildwood because it was like a certain week that was cheaper than the other weeks. And like they always booked it like years in advance, right? So we'd bring everything with us. Like now you go and you're like, I'll just buy socks when I get there, like stupid shit like that. And like those luxuries did not exist, down to all the food we would eat for those 5 days. Like we'd bring all of the food and the.
Did you fly or did you drive up there?
No, fly. We drove. Yeah, we drove, and we had like the big, the styrofoam cooler, 2 of those with all the food in it, and but yeah, I remember one time we went to Montreal because my mom was like, let's go somewhere else. And we drove to Montreal, which now I know is a 6-hour drive. But that one trip sticks in my memory so much because of how much I got in trouble in a closed car.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like how much how many times we had to pull over for me on a 6-hour drive. And we did the whole thing. We drove there, spent the day, and then drove back at night. And I was expected to sleep and not speak. And no Walkmans, no nothing, right? And I just remembered that. And I just remembered that Tony was quitting smoking.
Oh, so he was in a good mood.
He was not in a good mood. Wow, I just remembered that. As you were asking me about where the road trip, all of a sudden the whole theme of the podcast came back to me, and I was like, "Yeah, right, road trips." So
but wait,
sorry about that.
What were the things young Bobby was doing? Do you remember that they'd have to pull over? Like, can you think back to your misbehavior?
Oh, just like I was the king of the questions, right? King of the questions and king of complaining.
Yeah,
like just complain. Like, how long are we almost there? The whole thing, and just too many questions. I just asked too many questions, and my mom would just get like, be done with me, throw a shoe back at me, and I'd be. You guys ever get the shoe thrown at you? You ever get the shoe thrown at you?
I never got it.
You guys never got the shoe thrown at you? Not once.
Could she throw a shoe at you? Could she get
Hell yes. Like that over the shoulder. And there's no
your
car
sister
seats.
was
Car seat. My brother wasn't here yet, but my sister was good.
Yeah.
My mother still says about my sister. Latin people have such great expressions. She says about your sister, mira. She goes like this, and that means like she slided up her sleeve, sneaky. She said, but you're always so obvious about everything, which I think is funny, right? Because trying not to do that like in my work, but my mother was like, she had no patience for me. I had way too much energy, so she was always throwing things at me.
I try to Posh, you try to remember what you're going to ask, because I do want to ask, like, when a parent knows they have a kid with that much energy, are they then so happy and relieved when you find an outlet for it? When you started doing performing, did it make total sense to your mom?
Yeah. Great question, Seth.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think so. Like my mom didn't let me go anywhere because we weren't allowed to go anywhere because they worked until 6:00 and I had to be home and like start dinner and like I do the laundry and like I had all the me and my sister had to do all the chores of the house. And and my mom was worried someone was going to snatch me. It was like that time. Yeah. And so I was not allowed to go anywhere except for something to do with the church because it was Catholic school, or the library, which was a couple blocks away. And I was always in the library. And I used to read, I would like look at these Life magazine the year in life, and there were books, and you would like look at pictures from like behind the scenes on a set, like, Lon Chaney getting his or like Maurice Evans getting his Planet of the Apes, Dr. Zaius mask on, right? And then putting the finishing touches on Roddy McDowell. So I knew who all these people were. And then I would and this is old school, right? I would pick up a name and go, what else did that person do back then? The people I didn't know, like Roddy McDowell, Maurice Evans. And I would find them in plays. I'd go to the plays section because they would have the yearbook, the play. They put these big, thick books out with like the 8 best plays of the year on Broadway. And I would always read them, take those out. My mom saw that shut me up. And that did do it. It wasn't basketball or little league, or like my energy could be completely absorbed by a book or a play or acting out, which then became its own issue of why I wouldn't shut up, right? Because then I'm just doing lines from movies and TV shows that I've seen on television all the time.
As long as they're not questions. I would happily...
more entertaining. It's true.
Yes.
As long as they're not questions. My mom would then enjoy my bits,
Yeah. Not questions and not complaining.
Yeah, show it off. Like I do it at, dinner and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I thought when you said you went to Wildwood, I've actually been to Wildwood as well. My buddy growing up, Randy Suazo, his family had a house down there, they'd get a place there for a couple weeks every summer. And I went along one year. That's a real sort of boardwalk, busy beach town. When you got to a place like that, were you more cut loose to go off on your own and run around? And
yeah, I would say so. My sister and I'm sure as you guys, well, how many years apart are you guys?
2 years.
2, yeah, like my sister and I. We really had each other and we really played with each other. And I remember we were allowed to go on the boardwalk behind us and there were rides. We couldn't do that by ourselves, but like we did the thing every day where there was a certain amount of money budgeted for us to go on the rides and play a couple of games. But most of the day was spent on the beach because my mother loved the beach. And the Trinidadian did too. Tony, he loved being on the beach. So we were just on the beach that whole week. Yeah. All day long. Back in the day, by the way, where we were laughing about it the other day because Rose she's always covering the kids in sunscreen. She's Australian, and we never wore sunscreen. My mother would put us in oil. Like it was oil, Hawaiian Tropic or Bain de Soleil or whatever, all over the kids, and we would just be out there all day. And it was awesome.
Did you love the beach? Were you to this day? Do you love a beach?
To this day, I love a beach. Gotcha. I do. I love a beach. But yeah, my guys do too. Actually, yeah. It's that was it though. That was the vacation. I mean, we would do like day trips to Asbury Park, to also to do to go on the rides in Sandy Hook Beach and the Jersey Shore, basically. But we never went for more than a day. That's why that Montreal trip, when I think about it, my mom has photo albums at her house down in Miami, and there's pictures from that trip. And I laugh every time because I'm like, we didn't stay in a hotel. We drove all the way to Montreal and back in a day. Who does that? Unless you're like dropping a drug shipment off.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
It does feel like that. But no, that was just to go and do the falls. That was the goal was to go to the falls and go under the Niagara Falls with the thing, which is fun if you haven't done it.
The Maid of the Mist?
The Maid of the Mist. And then you take the picture in the barrel going over, with everybody. And then you go to the wax museums. You have like a hot dog and some cotton candy and you go back home 6.5 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
That is a lot to ask of kids.
right?
Yeah.
And I remember on the way back, my mother saying, my mother and Tony saying it was a Datsun 210 hatchback, and they put the seats down, and I think that was like considered like that was a big deal. Like they used to be able to pull the big seat out from the back of a station wagon, but to fold chairs down like that, I think was rather newish in the 70s.
Uh-huh.
And we were expected to lay on that rug with the coolers and, some blankets and not pick our heads up. And so we just whispered for, 6 hours, my poor sister answering all my questions for 6 hours. Yeah.
We have, it is funny when the older sibling starts thinking the younger sibling's questions are irritating, because then the amount you want to say, I told you so to the older one, which is like, yeah, it's the worst, right? And you do it too.
That's so funny you say that. I did that to Rocco. Like I finally just lost it with him. I was trying my best to acknowledge his feelings about the fucking thing, right? He's like, Dad, I just want him to stop asking me so many questions. Dad. I don't know if your kids, but my Rocco does this, this little thing in his voice where he's going to cry.
Oh yeah, Ash is that 100%.
And I'm like, what? Just ask the question. And he's like, it's just so many questions, Dad, so many questions. And I did that to him the other day. I was like, you know what, buddy, I'm going to level with you. You did the same thing to me. And he's like, but you're my dad. And I was like, I know, but you're always going to have him. He's always going to have you. Get used to it on some level. I'm always trying to give them like the real talk. I know they can't handle it, but I got to bleed those things in, the common sense things.
Right. You're stuck with them. It is like that thing of, I know I'm your dad, but you're stuck with him. And that's just, they now share a bedroom, but in the early days, they were had a wall between them. And there was a famous morning where Axel at like 5 a.m. just started screaming through the wall, like, Ash, Ash. And finally we heard Ash say, what? And he said, how do people make wood? And that was at 5 a.m. That was the question.
That's so
just
good.
Standing on the side of his crib, just needed to know.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great. We make fun of it, right? But it's the best. The questions are the best.
And watching them interact, the best.
Yeah. Now we're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by McDonald's. Hey, Poshy.
Yes, Sophie.
I've often got a whole family in my car.
Yeah. You got a lot of kids.
Yeah, I also don't have to tell you, this podcast is about family trips, and one of the key things about a family trip is keeping them fed. And sometimes you're on the road, and everybody's hungry, and you just time. Time is of the essence, my man. Do you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Time.
I do. I hear you.
And what I love about the McDonald's app is you can order your food in advance. You can sense that this window is about to close where you can feed your children and they will not melt down. And what I love about the McDonald's app, amazing deals all the time, Poshy. Free medium fries, or sometimes even a QPC BOGO deal. BOGO, you know what BOGO is, Posh?
Buy one, get one.
Buy one, get one. And that's great because I buy one for one kid, another one gets one, and the third one fends for themselves.
That's how you find out who's the strongest.
Yeah, downloading the McDonald's app is a no-brainer because you get a new deal every single day. I would say the most important time for us, like 3. If it's 3 p.m. and we had too early a breakfast before we got on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then the kids decided because of that early breakfast, they had to have way too early a lunch, right? It's like 10:40, they're eating lunch. And now all of a sudden it's 3 and you're just like, we're not going to make it. We got to get some food in those bellies. And that's when we love McDonald's. We love saving money. It's a match made in heaven.
Save money every day with the McDonald's app. Must opt in for rewards.
Here we go.
So your partner, Rose Byrne, is Australian. How often have you taken the boys there?
A lot. I think like 4 or 5 times now.
I mean, I would imagine they're at the age where they get excited about that trip, despite its length.
Yeah, they love going to Australia. Everything's about watching movies because they're not allowed. We don't watch TV in the house except for on Friday and Saturday.
We're the same. And so they love travel because of that.
They love travel. And you know what? I give them the travel because I know they don't watch anything most of the time. They don't have iPads yet. It's all going to change one day, I know. It just hasn't happened yet. So flying, they've traveled a lot. It's a long way away, and they're literally limitless. They can do whatever the whatever they want, pretty much, for us to get through the 22-hour flight. And then once we're there, like last year when we went for a month. And we went so many different places. We took them to Uluru, which, if you don't know, is the incredible rock in, like in the Northern Territory in.
Formerly Ayers Rock, or originally Uluru, then Ayers Rock, then Uluru.
Yeah. And, that's the outback. That's like incredible country out there. And then we took them to Melbourne, and we went down the coast. It was incredible. And they're good. They're good travelers, those guys, because they've made that trip so many times. I never thought I'd make a flight like that. And now I like it there so much that the flight's nothing to me now. As Rose says, it's a day of our life.
Had you ever, so you'd never been to Australia pre-Rose for work or anything?
I'd never met an Australian really until Rose. And now I know all of them, I think. But it's funny because the guys, now that we travel so much, that made me want to go on road trips. I don't know if that's okay to like pivot a little bit like that.
Yeah, no, we're allowed.
But I do have to say,
you can talk about road trips all you want, man.
Right, it's hit me again. It pinged in my head again. Road trip. I always wanted to drive cross country. So flying to Australia so much, we did a lot of driving. Once I got the hang of driving on the other side, I mentioned to Rose, I was like, God, one day I got to drive cross country. She's like, why don't you just do it when we get back? So I've driven across this country 5 times in the last 5 years now.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, dudes, I'm obsessed with it.
Are you driving solo on these trips?
Okay, first trip was solo. Brought the car to LA because we were going to be there for a couple months for summer. Rose was working. I was like, let me go get the car. That's a good excuse. And I took like forever. She's like, take your time. It took like 10 days and I drove across. And that was what became the appeal, was taking my time, staying wherever I want to stay, stopping whenever I want to stop, and not driving on the freeways at all. So staying mostly county roads. It's just it's a beautiful country. It's an astonishing country. I've met so many people doing this and seen so many different geographical, marvels that. So my kids now know that I do this, and they're dying to come on one with me. So we're building to getting them just old enough to be able to do it together. And I'm going to take them, just the guys.
Yeah. Sounds like probably different route every time to some degree.
Different route every time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you say you met so many people, where are you meeting people? Where are you sort of?
Like wherever I stop to eat, wherever I stay, and I wake up in the morning and to go to the local coffee shop. I'm pretty much staying in bed and breakfast and tiny little inns and things. But the first time I did it by myself, and then at the last four times, I went with a good buddy who meets me halfway or goes halfway and then leaves. So I have half the time with a buddy, and it's incredible. It's incredible.
Do you plan it ahead, or you just sort of fly by the seat of your pants with the bed and breakfast?
I plan. No, that I just start looking wherever I know. Like I think in a couple hours I'm going to want to stop, and I start to look ahead. Yeah, and I've gotten really good at following, like nothing more than the little Southwest or the little the digital compass. I'm always like, if I'm going sort of in that direction, I'm okay, and then I'll check it and see I am going in the right direction. And then when there are a few things that I do want to see along the way. Like I became obsessed with the Grand Canyon. The first time I did it, I hiked down. I didn't go as far as I wanted to. I came back. I was like, God, there's so much time left still in the day. And then the next time I did it, I went down to close to the bottom, came back pretty exhausted. And then the third time I did it, I brought my buddy, and we did something very dangerous actually, which is we went all the way to the bottom in August, like bathed in the creek down there, had like 8 lemonades, and went back up in the middle of the day. And it took us 17 hours.
Wow.
And we were in the dark, only one headlamp between us. Like it was not well planned. I was off by like 7 hours. I thought it was going to take about 10 hours. Was
there anybody else on the trail at that time? Or did you plan so badly? Yeah.
I planned pretty badly. But there's only one way out, and you come out of the Grand Canyon National Park anyway. So I just thought, if we just keep going up, there's nowhere else to go. But we did have a couple of people come through who are like exercise people or whatever. I'd read enough little stories on all trails of people who have done it, mostly people in really good shape. But I thought I'm in really good shape for my age.
Yeah.
But I'm still was off by 7 hours.
I was going to say
like
that
these guys were like running with the thing that you put across the chest, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It measures something, you know, and like no shirt. And they were those guys were running past me. Yes.
The Canyon cares not about the for your age part of it. You know, the Canyon.
Yes. No, it doesn't.
the Canyon knows.
I tell you what, guys, have you done it?
No. So this is going to be something we're going to ask you about.
You take the kids. It's an incredible. I mean, I know it's just a big thing, you know, but some part of you will look at that thing and go, "What happened here? Like, what the fuck happened?" And I mean, you know, and then some like genius will tell you, actually, it's not that big a deal. Oh, the plates and the thing. But you're like, I don't give a shit, bro. I've driven across this country and I have never seen anything like it. That's how I felt when I saw Uluru. So you should see it. And it's beautiful hiking in it.
Not to put you on the spot, but is there like a town you stopped during one of your 5 cross-country trips that you had no expectation of that outdid itself?
I like Natchez, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Marfa.
I was going to say Marfa. My guess was going to be Marfa.
Yeah, Marfa. And Marfa, like, I kind of knew about it because I watched that show with Kevin Bacon and you know, Griffin Dunn was I Love Dick, you know, and that was like the first time I'd ever heard of it. But I wasn't really after it. What I really wanted to do was drive along the border between the Texas-Mexican border for a long time and just check out those border towns, which I did. And then I found myself getting close to Marfa, and I was like, oh yeah, Marfa. And it's really a special place for sure.
Yeah.
You know, like it's an artist commune, you know, and I like that anyway. I live in New York City. I live in Brooklyn. You know, I like being around artists, and I think was founded by a great artist, right? And I shouldn't say it was founded by a great artist, but that artist community and the atmosphere of art that is there, very heavily present there, is on purpose, and it's something you feel it there, and it's the people are lovely, and they're, you know. So I will usually stay there. There's a great place there called El Cosmico, which I know you've probably heard of. And, you know, you can stay in a tent or a yurt or like a decked out camper, you know, like an Airstream. And I've done all of those things driving through there. I have gone through there a couple of times. Yeah. It's a really,
I will say,
really
I think
fun
we
town.
both love our wives and our children very much, but I also love the idea of taking the long way across the country without them.
Oh.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, I've gotten to do it, you know. Now I've done it enough times that Rocco keeps asking me, Dad, it's really cute too. So now every time we go anywhere and they start to complain, I go, you see, you're not ready yet. You're still not ready. It's like
that's a wonderful cudgel to beat them with. That's great.
Yeah. It's like it's like the right stuff. They're like those guys. They got to have what it takes to drive across the country with me.
Do you collect any kind of like memorabilia as you're crossing the country? Do you get little stickers and magnets or
That's funny.
hats?
I don't.
Yeah,
Josh. I mean, I've got like little, you know, I've picked up a couple of, you know, barbecue joint hats and things like that. But I don't know about you guys, but then what do you do with them?
Yeah.
You just, right?
I will say, though, because I collected stuff as a kid. Josh didn't, but I was, you know, sort of baseball cards and comic books. And I just took Axel to Fleet Week. We went on an aircraft carrier. And there were guys sitting outside. We were on the flight deck. There were guys sitting outside their helicopters, and they would explain to the kids and the adults what the helicopters did. And some of them were selling patches of their, you know, this is the flight patch. And Axel was like, I want that. And I was like, all right, I'll get you that one. And then the next helicopter had one that was different. And I felt like I was the one who said, yeah, I feel like you should get this one too. My collector brain, which is a useless part of my brain. But it was me like, we're going to get all the patches.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing about going across the country like that, though, is you do seek out whatever people are doing in that town. So like, I want to eat where they're eating, or, you know, like going down the Mississippi Delta, it took Highway 61, you know, from Tennessee down to, you know, almost New Orleans, really. And, I wanted hot tamales in Mississippi, and they do taste good there. And there's something about that. I had elk in Utah, or was it Utah? Yeah. But anyway, the national parks, the painted desert, forget it. You're driving and it's just the road. I mean, I grew up in a very urban environment in Union City, and I still live in an urban environment. It's the best. I love it. I have to live in a big city, but there is something to seeing like the ribbon of the highway and just, a John Ford movie all around you, those colors.
When you don't have a buddy with you, are you listening to music?
Both music and podcasts. Yeah.
Okay, great.
But I do listen to a lot of music. I'm like a singer in the car. I got to sing in the car. I like to sing in the car.
Do you sing full throat? Do you?
It's funny. Podcasts, not that like this part you can, I guess, cut out, but podcasts kind of fucked with my music listening life.
I agree. That's fine.
Absolutely. I used to listen to so much music, and now I already don't have any time. And I got to listen to I got to listen to Michael Barbaro every day. I got to listen to.
I know, it's that thing. Well, now you didn't feel like, when you listen to music in the past, that you were procrastinating, and now I feel like because you are like,
it exists and you're missing something, right?
I should be, I should be
educating yourself to a degree.
Yeah. How many times can I listen to rumors?
Right.
Which,
but then you know what the answer is?
1,000 times.
An infinite amount of times, because then, now I feel like, and this is the sad state of affairs, I'll be at a restaurant. That's maybe the only time I hear rumors now, right?
Right?
And then when I hear it, I'm like, I also have the power to listen to rumors.
Yeah. So it's another reason a road trip is fun, especially when you're by yourself, because I will listen to it.
If you had the boys, let's say it was next year, you do it with the boys. What's the longest stretch you think they could actually do in the car?
It wouldn't be anywhere near what I can do, right? So I've thought about that. That's why I got to work them. I got to work them up. We got to take a couple 3 hours. It's like a marathon. Yeah. So that we can do 6.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 hours break, another 3 hours, motel, movie, bed, up, coffee, whatever bun, whatever muffin I can get, on the road, and just keep doing that. And then, find a couple of cool places, what I always do, right? Some places I just blast through, and other places I stay for a little bit, I stay for a night or two. And we would do that. But that would be, I am looking forward to doing that. I want to do that with them. And I just love that they want to do it so bad, because I feel like the sense of that's the other thing, is going off of the highway. I think for kids, that's boring. I think it is more exciting to drive through farmland but in the back roads and go, look at that one. Look at this. Oh, well, that's cool. There's so many surprises along the way. I feel like Dr. Seuss. But it really is. This country really is like that. Yeah. The whole thing.
Have you had any notable sort of great trips with your boys that aren't that are more stateside? Do you go off on little family vacations or quick excursions?
Summertime, we've done that, but that's just to get somewhere, really, right? Yeah. To get out to the beach for a week, or we like it up in the Hudson Valley, but not so much. Although, you know what? I'm going to Ireland. I'm going to make a movie in Ireland this summer, and I think I'm going to bring them out for a couple of weeks. So I think we will go for some good drives in Ireland. The one time I went there, we did a lot of that.
Don't name names. Are there any other people I know that are working in Ireland? Because I feel like multiple people have told me.
Yes.
Okay.
Mutual people we know are working it. There's a lot going on in Ireland right now. I agree.
There's a lot of going. So that makes it all the better, right? When you get to go out and see friends from Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's true.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's the problem of, when you do these late night shows, they're just all home games. You never get to see the world. Just working in the same building for 22 years. I haven't seen anything. Painted Highway. What is this?
I was listening to one. Painted Highway. No, that's not it. I listen to a lot of Gordon Lightfoot in the car too.
There you go. Yeah.
How about the songs that come on like that? When you're in the car for a really long time, you actively try to remember the songs that you knew the words to see if you still know the words. And that's a day. That's like a day. I could do that for a day, seeing if I remember the words to The Rain King, or, Hold My Hand, or,
that's great.
Whatever. But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know where we got off.
No, that's fine. We rarely know all the words to any song, so it wouldn't take us a day.
You guys were talking about hearing you were listening on one of your podcasts. You were talking about listening back to things, and I think Josh listens at 2 speed or something, which is too fast for some things, and it made me laugh because it got me thinking about this thing about hearing our voices. Like, imagine like people never heard themselves. Like in the days when people didn't hear themselves, did people have like the craziest laughs? You know what I mean? Like, were there people who just fucking, they didn't, because nobody cared, right? And nobody said anything, and you couldn't hear your own. Like, whenever I hear my laugh, it's so horrible. It's a cackle that I hear when I'm really laughing and I can't control myself. That even if I try in the moment, because I'm an actor, so I try to like sometimes be outside of what's happening so I can see it, and I can't control my laugh. It's horrible. But back in the day, people didn't care at all about those things. And now, I think now we just, we're, without realizing it, we're critical of everything because we can hear it and see it. And
it's funny. There should be in those, for example, like there was all like, Boardwalk Empire, right? There would be like vaudeville scenes where guys would be telling jokes. They should have had the people in the audience just like crazy laughs.
Yeah, they totally should have. You're right. Maybe we can. Yeah.
I was good buddies with Paul Rubens, who always would talk about the first people that danced. Like, you see those people in like the 20s, and he's like, they don't know what they're doing. They're just like smiling too big. And it's like, there's no reflection of like, how do I look right now? Yeah,
I think about that often, actually. Sometimes I mean, anybody who knows me will tell you that, like, I'm like a 6-year-old sometimes with the wonders of life still. Today, you mentioned Paul Rubens. I thought about him today, Josh. I dropped the kids off at school. Rocco wants to bounce a basketball now to school every day, so I have to take that home. And then the other one wants to get on the scooter with the helmet, and there's nowhere to put it. So I'm stuck with all this shit. And I know I got to go to the bakery. It's like 6 blocks away. I'll try to be brief. But I go up there. I'm carrying the thing. Everybody's taking their kids. I'm pissed off. And I go and I stand in line. I get the bread. And then I get on this tiny little scooter, a Razor 2-wheeler, and I go down Henry Street in Brooklyn here, which is all downhill. And I'm not kidding you guys. I made it from Montague and Henry to about 2 blocks from my house because I caught all the lights and like garbage truck holding up traffic, garbage guys waving to me, saying good morning, Atlantic Avenue, accident and traffic jam. So I didn't have to stop. I kept going. I made it almost 2 blocks from my house on like 2 kicks of this child's thing. And I felt like Paul Rubens. I thought about him. I was like, I feel like Pee Wee Herman right now. Like, I'm seeing the whole world through another lens, and it's all working for me right now. So anyway,
that sounds like the opening credit sequence to Bobby. Yeah, Bobby in Brooklyn.
I had so my boys, they like last year they had their scooters, and then I would Razor scooter with them. I had one for me.
You had a big one.
Yeah, and so the 3 of us would go to school, and I think it looked like the cutest thing in the world. And then, though, I would drop them off, and then it would just be me on a Razor scooter home. And the amount I felt people being like, recognizing me and being like, what's gone wrong for him?
Yeah, right. What? I definitely see that, but I don't care. Like, by the time they've figured it out, I'm gone, by the way.
Right? Well, you're catching all the lights.
I'm catching all the lights. And you gotta be like really like, I'm so hyper careful. I look down at all, because I don't want to take a header,
No.
While I'm being watched, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want it. But when you're at the stoplights for those, that's the bad part. When you're just like being stationary on a Razor scooter.
And you know what? It's not cool to like reach in and look at your phone because you're on the scooter.
Yeah, no, you have
to keep one hand on the thing, on the stupid thing. And it's really low, this one. So
Ezra, you're in Ezra with Rose. This is how many times have you guys worked together?
Oh, we were talking about the other night. 9.
9?
Wow. Yeah, 9. That's pretty. Wow. That's a lot.
You met on set. Is that right?
No, we didn't. No, we met 10 Tate Donovan's an old friend of mine. He was doing Damages with Rose and their first season. And I met her then, and we were, in totally different times in our lives. So socially, whenever like I'd get together with Tate and his cast, we'd see each other. And so we were sort of friendly before that. And then a few years later, after that, 12 years ago this year, we re-met at a play. We were both in the audience of a play, and we went on a date a week later. And then we worked together 6 months after that was the first time. And then consequently, 8 more times.
Two things. Tate Donovan, I was just thinking about because my boys just watched Hercules for the first time. He's the voice of Hercules, and which is fantastic. Yeah. He's great. Yeah. Now you work together.
Do your kids ask you if you know all the people that they like?
No, they don't. And they've met a few, but they haven't quite put together that I would know them yet. And a few times I've said, that person who does that voice is on my show. But then when I show them a clip, they're disappointed that it doesn't look like. If I showed them a picture of Tate Donovan, they would be very disappointed that he looked less like Hercules.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
I did a voice in an animated series that Seth created, and his eldest now is like, "You were Perfect Man?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I do it, and he's like, "You sound like him." And I'm like, "Yeah, because I was him."
It's really cute.
How many times do you guys think you would have worked together? I mean, like, it seems like you were probably trying to, shape it so that you work together. Yes.
Not really, to be honest.
That's
amazing. I just think that people, let's be honest, like the people who paying the checks, they're not like that creative, right? So if you see it, you see something once, you go, hey, whoa, let's do that again. So Rose and I actually say no to a lot of those things. But the bonus is that we like working together and our schedules match up. Like our life is just our schedule. And it's not our schedule, really. It's the kids' schedules. So like everything sort of revolves around that until it can't. And then we have to, figure that out. But we try to schedule everything around the kids. And so when we get asked to work together, that's usually a good thing for our schedule with the kids.
I would imagine.
Yeah. And most of the things that we've done together have been here.
Right. So this was mostly, because I know this is there's a road trip element here, but mostly you were shooting this one in New York?
All here in New Jersey and New York, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Hey guys, I mean, you'd think I'd be more on the ball here. I just got that the movie is a road trip movie and it connects to this podcast. I'm not even joking that it just hit me. I'm so bad, I have no media training. So no. So can you imagine if this was really only like an 8-minute show and you guys are like, what the fuck are we going to do? I don't know how to make this work.
Media training 101, show up with a fly swatter.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I haven't seen him.
Yeah, I think you scared him away early.
Yeah, it was that was like show up with a big stick.
It's just the big ones I don't like. The flies. What's the flies about?
Yeah, big old fly.
Yeah, nasty. But then again, I think again about like the farm. Not that I know I'm not living in a farm, but like there would be flies, right?
There would be flies. More flies than you have. A fly swatter. They probably don't even have fly swatters on the farm because it's fruitless. They're like, we can't stop this wave no matter what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. The ones I don't like are the ones that grow out of the fruit from nowhere.
Yeah, no thanks.
That one, I'm like,
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby, you media training or not, I could tell you one of my favorite guests we've ever had on this podcast.
Really?
Been absolute fantastic.
Oh,
fantastic.
You're
a
kidding.
hit.
You're a hit.
No, you're a hit.
All right.
We always, Josh and I do try to see this through the lens of what will our parents say, and you're going to be a real hit with Hillary and Larry.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This was really easy. I do get really nervous. Like I brought a hat and I brought, I brought Jake Tapper's book. I just
I have that book. He sent me that book.
Let's be honest. Yeah. So
Josh is going to, before you go, Josh is going to ask you some questions real quick.
Okay.
Some quick questions. You can only pick one of these. Is your ideal vacation relaxing, adventurous, or educational?
Adventurous.
What is your favorite means of transportation? Train, plane, automobile, boat, bike, walking? Something else?
Walking. What do you mean? In the city? Or you mean in general?
Like just means of transportation.
In the city, walking everywhere, biking everywhere, city biking everywhere, and in general, car.
Okay. This one's a little trickier. If you could take a family vacation with any family, alive or dead, real or fictional, other than your own family, what family would you like to take a vacation with?
Holy shit, that's a great question. Fuck. I mean, maybe the Jacksons in 1968.
Great answer.
Great answer. Love it.
I'd love to be with those guys, see what's happening.
By the way, if you think of, never mind. I won't even say.
If you had to be stranded on a desert island with one member of your family, who would it be?
If I had to be?
You had to be.
Not counting my wife and kids, because of course I want them. You mean?
But you have to pick one.
You could
it's
pick
only one.
Yeah.
Only one.
Oh, Jesus. Well, the kids I love all the same, so I guess I'm not going to screw that one up. I guess Rose for sure. Actually,
and
Rose
then just
sure.
if Rocco and Rafa are only listening to this, your dad did giant quote fingers for loving you all the same.
The little one's been asking me that a lot lately. It says new way to nudge me. Dad, who do you like the most? Yeah. That one.
My wife said to our middle son Axel, you're my least favorite, and he cannot be rattled, and he was just like he was looking out the window. He goes, "Yeah, but I'm also your favorite," and she was like, "Yeah, that's about right." He kind of occupies the polls.
I like to tell them who's smarter this week. You know what I mean? Your brother, you were much smarter last week. I find that helps.
That's good. Yeah. The drive.
Something to strive for.
Yeah.
So you would say you're from Union City, New Jersey?
Yes.
This hometown. Would you recommend Union City as a vacation destination?
You know what? I would tell people if they wanted to go for the best drive, go across the Lincoln Tunnel, bear right, go up Boulevard East, and all of that. Boulevard East, which is also part of that, is Hamilton Terrace, where Alexander Hamilton was shot by Aaron Burr. It's still there, Hamilton Terrace. And drive your car there, and all along the water there, it's a cliff. It's the top of a cliff. And I grew up with the best views of New York City. It is the greatest view of New York City. And there's parks along basketball, bring a basketball. It's beautiful, and it ends in a beautiful county park called Hudson County Park. We called it the 80th Street Park. But so, that's a great day trip.
That's a very good specific instruction, because I will say when we drive into the city coming down Hudson, and you look across, it does look like a beautiful, exactly what you said, like a cliff that looks over New York City.
I grew up on 19th Street, and it's right across from 19th Street. And Union City, is a little further back from the cliff. I could see the Empire State Building from our kitchen, from our apartment window, but I couldn't see everything because there's 8-10 blocks to the cliffside. And that old cliffside is called West New York. So West New York, all the streets match up with the street numbers on this side.
Wow.
So where I was baptized and had my first communion and all that stuff is these 3 domes that if you look across from 20th Street in Chelsea-ish, you can see those 3 domes. That's 20th Street. That's my St. Michael's, the monastery that they never knocked down. So I kind of see Union City every day.
Oh, cool.
It's pretty wild. But I would recommend that as a day trip for sure, and pick up some good Cuban food while you're there.
Excellent. And Seth has our last questions, which we've kind of answered.
You've answered it. The question was going to be, have you been to the Grand Canyon and was it worth it? But I feel like hardcore yeses on both.
I have a feeling that might be Grand Canyon. Maybe it might be in the title of the show. Grand Canyon? Yes.
He's going to call it. He's going to call it right now. I think the title of the show is going to be it's going to be find out more about Trinidad Tony. I think that might be the
God. I've never said that out loud. Certainly not publicly. But nobody's asked me about my stepfather or anything like that. So, and he's Tony from Trinidad. Yeah.
I'm glad he finally got his due. Bobby, I hope I see you in person again soon. Love to you and your whole family.
To you and your family as well. Josh, great to meet you.
Great to meet you too. Thanks for coming on.
Good to talk to you. Yeah. All right.
All right. Bye, Bobby.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Family trips with the Myers brothers. Family trips
Thanks again to Nissan for sponsoring this episode. Learn more at nissanusa.com.